days, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to absolutely come in here with some really good country music and just throw you off your vibe completely.
You know what? I probably would lose my mind. I mean, listen, if you play some Johnny Cash, some Waylon, some of the old stuff, I can cope. But if you're going to put on, like, Garth or, I don't know.
Garth.
Shelton, you know, I mean, I just, it's so bad. I don't understand America's fascination with country music. I'm a classic rock guy. I like the 90s, the grunge. We were just listening to Plush, Stone Temple Pilots. Turn it up again.
Turn it back up? That's what you really want to hear? Fine.
I
swear I thought we were on here to talk football, but we're on here to talk 90s rock. Prez, I barely even remember the 90s. And we're supposed to be on here talking football. 7?
Yeah, well, exactly. The 90s were like when the Prez was in his prime. Actually, one of the comments on the last video we made was the Prez has the most punchable face they've ever seen. Let me tell you, in the 90s, this mug got some serious action.
From fists or from women? I know, you used to play a lot of hockey, so you like to fight.
Ellie, do you want me to flex?
I think we just should, just for fun, at this point. Oh, I zipped it back up.
I'm pressing 200 pounds.
That's great. I figured since, you know, you're Canadian, you guys do something like kilograms, but okay.
Yeah, well, you know what, in weight, we're still stuck in the pounds. Anyway, yeah, so this is the most punchable face that this person who commented has ever seen. You know, before we get into football, I love the comments on our YouTube channel. We had 7,000 views last week. A bunch of them talked about how hot you are. Correct. Fair enough. I was getting no facial love, but I was told that I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And the best thing is I was told that on Thursday before any of the games went off. And of course, if you listened to our video last week, Tampa Bay, Carolina, on and on and on, Philadelphia, the Prez certainly knew, and speaks in third person, certainly knew what he was talking about. With that said, I went 2-4 in my pay picks in week 1, and I'm gutted. I called the over in the Rams game last night. Didn't work. We're taping on Tuesday, by the way. The Giants was a play I gave out. It lost. Very disappointing week, but it's week 1, and I know I'm going to hit over 57% on the year. So we should give out a promo because this is a bounce-back week for me and the Pittsburgh Steelers and a bunch of other teams, New Orleans Saints. But this is about the Prez, and this is my bounce-back week.
All right, Prez promo code PREZ. NFL5, you get Prez's entire Sunday card for $5. That's insane. $5.
How can you go wrong?
You can't. That's crazy. So Prez NFL5, you get Prez's Sunday card for $5. Prez, let's talk about some football. Thursday night, Baltimore heads into Cincinnati. The game's at a pick'em. Total of 44. What are you thinking about this one?
Well, you know, firstly, I was wrong last week. I said the Bills would show up and cover the 7.5. And you know what, Kelly? The game got out of control very quickly. The turnovers are something you just can't factor into your handicapping. And, I mean, Baltimore was all over the Bills from a turnover perspective. They looked good. Buffalo looked horrific. And it'll be interesting to find out who's going to start. I mean, we're taping the show on Tuesday, so it hasn't been announced. But as far as the Thursday night game, I really like it. Cincinnati looked good against Indianapolis. We don't know how good Cincinnati really is because they played Indianapolis. But conversely, we don't know how good Baltimore is because they played a team that probably would lose to Indianapolis. So I'm going to take Cincinnati in this game, and I'm also going to take under the total in this game, 44 points. I know we saw a lot of points. I mean, Cincinnati put up 44 or more themselves, and so did Baltimore at 47. I think this is going to be a low-scoring, game, heavy on the run, and I like both Cincinnati and the under.
Nice. All right. Speaking of Indianapolis, you just brought them up. They're playing the Redskins. Redskins absolutely throttled Arizona. Now 6-point favorites at home. Total 45.5. Who are you backing in this one?
You know, the line came out Washington at -4.5, and obviously there's a lot of money coming down on Washington at 6. And the over and under has dropped 2 points, so there's money coming in on the under. You know, Kelly, Washington, again, it's a very similar situation. They played an Arizona team that literally didn't show up. They forgot the season had started. With that said, Alex Smith looked really good, poised, great completion percentage. AP looked like the AP of old. And Washington's defense is very stout. I like Washington in this game, minus the 6, and I lean on under 45.5 as well, because I actually think Indianapolis is going to struggle scoring.
Here's a game I like. Carolina's headed to Atlanta. As we saw, Atlanta ended up losing. I have no idea why Matt Ryan can't hit Julio Jones in the end zone, especially on last-minute plays, but he just couldn't do it. That being said, they're now 5.5-point favorites, total of 44.5. I'm kind of looking at the Falcons here. I haven't made a decision yet. Obviously, like you said, this video is being filmed on Tuesday. But your thoughts?
Well, listen, I've been studying all day today, and look, I bet the over in the Atlanta-Philadelphia game, and I actually expected, with Steve Sarkisian in his second year as offensive coordinator, I actually expected Atlanta to be able to get some touchdowns. And if you watch that game, and if you look at the drive charts, which is something I study all the time, Atlanta moved the ball at will against an incredibly stout Philadelphia Eagles defense. They just couldn't convert. I cannot believe that will continue all year. With that said, way too one-dimensional. I mean, looking at Julio Jones, 14, 15 targets in that game. And Carolina, they played a terrible Dallas team. And we're going to talk about Dallas later. And me and you spoke about Dallas last week and about how tough that team is going to have it this year. Both you and I are not Dallas believers. And Carolina's defense looked really good. But again, like Baltimore, like Washington, you know, I think Dallas is one of the worst teams in the league. And Carolina struggled to score. I don't want to say must-win games here, but Atlanta doesn't want to see themselves 0-2 in a tough division, playing a rival at home. I think Atlanta needs to win this football game. It came out at -5. It was up to 6. It's now down to 5.5. I'm going to take Atlanta all day in this game, and I'm also going to lean on under the total of 44.5. But I really feel like, and I'm telling you this, and I'll be saying it all year, I feel like Atlanta is one of the best teams in all of football, and they are going to get rolling. I mean, Julio, Matt Ryan, Coleman, Devontae Freeman, the fastest defense in the league. Interestingly enough, I think the defense stacks up really well against a running Cam Newton because their lateral movement is so great. I think Atlanta will contain Cam, which will contain Christian. They are a very one-dimensional offense, and I think Atlanta does get away with the cover.
Nice. Okay, one of the games I really like this week, well, from a rivalry perspective at least, I might not end up betting it. Minnesota is heading to Lambeau to play the Packers. I was just there. Obviously, I told you that. I was like, hey, I got to get out of town. If you haven't been to Lambeau Field, you guys, I highly recommend it. Packers open 2-point favorite, now down to 1. Well, obviously, they're playing one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they just almost lost to the Bears. They had to have a fourth quarter comeback, and so that is I guess I would say the overreaction here. But I think the -2 is probably the right line here.
You know, very interesting game, that Green Bay-Chicago game, because it really was a tale of two halves. I mean, if you look at the second half of that game, they didn't almost lose the game. They didn't sneak out with a 1-point victory. They completely dominated the entire second half of that football game, and Aaron Rodgers showed you what he can do. I mean, Randall Cobb was getting a ton of hate this preseason. Even in the fantasy leagues, people were talking about Geronimo Allison ahead of him, Devontae Adams ahead of him. Randall Cobb got 10 catches this past week. Aaron Rodgers is a beast. Now, is he going to play? I think he's going to play, and I think Green Bay is going to win this football game. I think it's going to be super close. So I like that it's -1 now, which really is a pick-em game. So I'm going to take Green Bay -1, and I also like over the total in this football game. We saw that Minnesota was able to move the ball. Kirk Cousins is throwing great. Dalvin Cook is a beast coming out of the backfield. They have weapons in every single offensive position, and I don't believe in the Green Bay defense. So I think this game is going to get into the low 50s, and Green Bay is going to cover the 1.
All right, here's the team we just talked about, the Buffalo Bills. Chargers, 7.5-point favorites, now down to 7. So somebody's buying the hype on the Bills team. I did not bet the Bills last week. I really wanted to pull the trigger. And as soon as I looked at that into the first half score, I was thinking, God, I did not buy it. But now here it is this week. Do you play the ugly dog?
Yeah. If luckily I don't have to put hard-earned money on this football game. If you look at the drive charts and you look at the statistics of the Chargers-Kansas City game, I mean, the Chargers put up close to 500 yards. This team was rocking and rolling. They just couldn't beat Kansas City. And we spoke last week about the Chargers, and I think they're a really good football team. I think they've got great wide receiver core, an unbelievable running back in Melvin Gordon. And I think their defense is phenomenal. But again, we're going to have Joey Bosa out, and I think Joey is really the anchor of that defense. I think Buffalo is horrific right now. But with that said, how many times in the last 20, 30 years have we seen these West Coast teams fly all the way to the East Coast, play a 1 p.m. game, and just lay a stinker? I am not going to take the Chargers here. I'm not going to bet on this game at all, but I do like Buffalo at +7, and I also like over the total of 43 because I think you're going to get the Chargers putting up 30 points, 28, 24 points, and I think Buffalo is literally going to be forced to score.
Well, let's hope so. Speaking of injuries, Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans are still no line. We're kind of getting a question mark about Marcus Mariota. Sounds like Watson's going to be probable. Do you have an opinion on this game?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm a big fan of Houston, period, flat out. They played New England pretty tight. I think their defense is outstanding. I think Deshaun Watson is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. They got one of the best wide receivers in football, a great running back. I like Houston, and I like them to win a lot of games this year. Tennessee, I think, is going to be a Jekyll and Hyde team. I think we're going to see them lay eggs like they did against Miami last week, and I think we're going to see them put up some spectacular performances. But Mariota is really the key here. I don't know what the line is going to be, but let's assume Mariota plays. I think the game will be somewhere around Houston -1 or -2. And if I had to bet this game, I'm going to take the road favorite. But if it's under 3 points, and I'm guessing the over and under will be around 45, I will lean on the over.
All right, a team that surprised me last week, the Kansas City Chiefs. I did not bet this one, but I was shocked to see how well Mahomes and the Chiefs defense did not play that well, but the Chiefs offense played very well. That being said, here's a Pittsburgh Steelers team that just tied the Cleveland Browns in overtime. Speaking of a tale of two halves, they didn't score in the second half. How terrible. Now they're saying that Le'Veon Bell is no longer on the roster. I thought James Conner did really well. What are your things?
Well, how could he not?
Right. Well, yeah, he had to. He stepped up and he proved himself. So now maybe they don't need Bell anymore. But I don't know. Kansas City's a 5-point dog. Looking at this one, do back-to-back road games become a factor here? Is that something we should be considering?
I think ultimately this is a typical scenario where everybody thinks Pittsburgh is much better than they were last week against Cleveland. I mean, me and you spoke about this game, and I told you take the Browns plus the 4 points, and they covered that game. And we'll talk about the Browns later, but man, the Browns are a hell of a lot better than what people think. Pittsburgh is a team that I have struggled to bet on or against every single year. There are games where Big Ben and Antonio come out and they put up 44 points. And then the very next week, it's a 4-field-goal day for Pittsburgh. This is the most inconsistent offense in the last 10 years. With that said, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, he was the standout rookie, if you will, of the week last week. Tyreek Hill, Kelsey didn't even get involved in the offense. Kareem Hunt barely played. I think Kansas City is a beast, and I'm going to take those 5 points all day long. At the worst, this game is a field goal game. Kansas City plus the 5. Now, the over and under is 52.5. I have to take the under in this football game because I just don't believe in the Pittsburgh offense.
All right, so we just talked about a really good rookie quarterback, technically not, but first-year starter quarterback. Here's probably the most surprising team for me, and I'm sure for Johnny Detroit too. Miami Dolphins open 1-point favorite at the New York Jets. Sam Darnold, Monday night. I understand that Matthew Stafford threw an excessive amount of interceptions, but I was impressed with how well Darnold played, and I think that we have to give him a little bit of credit here. But a line move from 1 to now Miami -1 to now Jets -3 seems a little bit significant. Maybe I'm missing something here?
Well, I mean, listen, you always have this with teams out of New York. They have a massive population base, a huge fan base, and people in New York want to bet on teams in New York. We see that with the Knicks. We see that with the Giants. We see that with the New York Jets. The bottom line is everybody in New York is a bit giddy over a complete demolishing of Detroit on Monday night. With that said, Miami's defense is really good. I hate this game, Kelly. Like, in all seriousness, I would like to bet that the New York Jets win this game by exactly 3 points.
It's just one of those games. I can see exactly what you're saying. I think it makes sense to me. It's not a game I want to get involved with either.
I do like the under 44 points, though. I mean, Miami's going to play to the under all year, and I think we just had an abnormal Jets score last week, which has pushed the total up.
So, Prez, I have another promo code for you guys. If you want to buy Prez's full month-long NFL, Prez NFL 75 for $75 for the entire month. You get all of Prez's Prez NFL 75, guys. All right, a game that I also think there might be a little bit of overreaction here. Philadelphia -3 at Tampa Bay. I had Tampa Bay plus 9.5. I got a lot of grief for it on Twitter, but I had to roll the dice.
Where you got that play from?
It was definitely something that we talked about last week, and when I was making some of my selections, I said, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice here and take the big dog and Ryan Fitzpatrick week 1. I did not think they were going to win that game outright. That being said, what are your thoughts on this week's matchup?
Well, before we get into that, imagine how many survivor pools were messed up with Tampa Bay winning outright on the road against New Orleans.
I'm in a 3,000 almost person survivor pool, 2976 or something. I sent it to Johnny, and it said over 1,800 people got eliminated between, obviously the number 1 was the Saints, but could you imagine if the Packers would have lost? It was like the number 1 and number 2.
I think, I don't play survivor pools, but I would have taken Baltimore. Easy to say that now, right, Kelly?
Yes, very easy to say that now.
I wish, I really wish we had some music, but anyway, that's a different story.
Do you want me to go back to the music?
You still got it?
Yeah. Okay, back to football. Okay.
Back to football, and also I just ordered a mic from Amazon. We got a lot of grief last week for my volume, and I do apologize for that. And I am actually talking somewhat quietly tonight because we're taping at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and I got 2 little ones sleeping upstairs. Well,
so no yelling today.
One's trying to sleep upstairs. I am getting texts. Shut up, Daddy.
You're too loud.
Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. Look, here's the bottom line. We've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick put up brilliant football games. And the very next week, he is a sieve. With that said, Philadelphia cannot move the football. Like, I don't know how they won that game against Atlanta, to be honest with you. Philadelphia is showing up as number one in the power polls all over the place. I was reading on ESPN today, number one team in football. Come on. Nick Foles is just in dire need of Carson Wentz. That's who he needs right now. I'm taking Tampa Bay in this game, Kelly. I told you last week. Not only did I tell you last week in this video, the presidential NFL opening line report, to take Tampa Bay, but I told you about one of the bets I'm making on the year, and that is over 6.5 games for Tampa Bay. I told you don't sleep on the Bucs. Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, Barber coming out of the backfield, a good tight end, a rock-solid defense, playing in the heat. Don't sleep on the Bucs here. I think they're going to do just enough to not only cover, but I think Tampa Bay is your money line dog this week. Tampa Bay plus the 3, and I like over the total of 44. Even though I believe Philadelphia is struggling offensively, I see this game being a 27-24, 24-21 type of a football game. But I'm all over the Bucs.
All right. We talked about both of these teams already a little bit. Cleveland at New Orleans Saints. Obviously, the Saints just lost at home as 9-point favorites to the Bucs, and now they're 9-point favorites again here. I want to back the Saints. I think they have a big-time comeback kind of game. I think we're kind of overreacting to how well the Cleveland Browns played. Maybe, maybe not. Are you laying the 9?
Of course. Where's the overreaction on New Orleans? New Orleans has been crap for like 3-4 years. Last year was an anomaly. Somehow their defense actually got their act together. But why are we... I mean, the line came out at New Orleans -7, and the world is betted up to 9? Why? New Orleans... Michael Thomas is a great wide receiver. Kamara, great running back. Drew Brees, great quarterback. Fine. Their defense is abysmal. And I'll tell you something. Cleveland's defense is amazing. Ward has turned out to be a hell of a pick. Granted, we've only seen one game. Myles Garrett, he was a beast last week. Every position on Cleveland's defense is better than every position on New Orleans' defense. Literally man-to-man better. New Orleans doesn't deserve your money at -8.5, Kelly. And although I think they are likely going to win that football game, if I was in a survivor pool, I wouldn't take New Orleans this week either. And we saw Tyrod Taylor lay an egg last week against Pittsburgh, and we've seen him have some pretty good games. Plus, Josh Gordon looked good last week as well. They've got three-headed running game, Cleveland. Don't sleep on the Browns this year, Kelly. This is a team to play on. We spoke about it in one of my videos. I am definitely not laying 8.5. As far as the total goes, 49.5, I can't go near it one way or the other.
Yeah, it's really hard to bet those Saints under. All right, Arizona getting 12 at the LA Rams. This is my problem with this Rams team. I was on the Raiders last night. Maybe I'm still a little bitter. It's only been 24 hours. The Raiders absolutely should have covered that game, if not won that game. They just absolutely fell apart in the fourth quarter. So I think we have an overreaction here because, like you said, Arizona didn't even show up last week. Also, that being said, I'm not rushing to take the double digits with Arizona.
Well, I mean, listen, here's the bottom line. If this, again, go back to Survivor, the Rams would be my Survivor pick this week. This Arizona team is terrible. Flat out garbage. Fitzgerald, totally old. I mean, he makes the Prez look young. DJ, really good running back. Not a game change. Like, I believe in DJ, but the bottom line is the Rams defense with Sue and Donald and on and on. I mean, they're just going to stack the box 7 guys and say, come, DJ, come, run at us.
Well, especially against that Arizona O-line. It's just not going to help. It's not going to help his case at all this year.
No, it's a disaster. And Arizona's defense is garbage, too. Kelly, I do not lay double digits.
And I don't either.
I'm taking the Rams all day. Kelly, this game has 44 to 10 written on to 3. 44 to 3 written all over it. This is going to be an absolute annihilation. But you know what a big fan I am of the Rams. Anyway, I told you I think they're the best team in all of football. And because they didn't look great against Oakland, I think you're actually going to see their best game of the two this Sunday. I am all over the Rams.
All right. Poor Johnny's team, the Lions, getting throttled after Matthew Stafford threw 4 interceptions. Now I'm going to play Jimmy Garoppolo, 49ers. I was on the Vikings last week, so I was really happy with the outcome and Jimmy's little turnover issues and how many times he got sacked in the second half there. I don't know what to make of this one, to be really honest with you. Obviously, Matthew Stafford's hurt. Not really. He's going to probably play. I don't see any issues there, but offensively, the Lions just looked terrible in that second half. What do you think?
Yeah, you know what, Kelly, I think, listen, I'm not sitting there and telling you Detroit's making the playoffs, but Detroit is nowhere near as bad a team as they were last week, or yesterday, frankly. Matthew Stafford is still, to me, a top 10, top 12 quarterback in football. They do have a good running game. Golden Tate is a quality wide receiver. They have a decent defense, and I think people are sold on San Fran. And we were talking about this last week when we both said we're going to bet Minnesota. San Fran doesn't deserve our money yet either. I mean, you know, one of the comments on YouTube was, Prez, keep saying San Fran has no wide receivers. So you know what, Kelly? San Fran has no wide receivers. They also don't have any running backs. They also have a quarterback who is still very young, probably having a nap right now upstairs while we're doing this video. I'm taking Detroit plus the 5.5 points in this game. I would not be blown away if Detroit wins this game outright. And I also like over the total of 47.5.
All right. New England pissed off all the Texans backers like I kind of knew that they would once. I thought everybody liked the trendy dog. There we were. New England gets the cover. Now they're 2-point favorites on the road at Jacksonville. You and I were both on the Giants. That one was a little rough. Tell me your thoughts on maybe taking the 2 with Jacksonville.
Yeah, but listen, let's talk about that Giants-Jacksonville game here for a second. You know, the Giants get the 2-point conversion, they push. The Giants don't throw that late interception, they win. Jacksonville looked good in the first half. They struggled. Jacksonville did not look like some team that you would bet against Tom Brady. That's the bottom line to me. I don't bet against Tom Brady. You know, there are certain things, like in The Princess Bride, you don't have a land war against China. You know, you don't have a pasta-making contest against an Italian. You don't eat hot dogs against Joey Hot Dog. And you don't bet against Tom Brady. That's the bottom line here. And to me, this number is like 3 plus 2 minus 2. That's as close to a pick'em as it gets. Do I think New England is a monster this year? No, I don't. They need Edelman back. They just picked up 2 wide receivers this morning. One of them, Coleman. So, yeah, they're hurting. They don't have a great run game. They don't have a great wide receiver core. But they have Tom Brady. I mean, it's like this guy is not only the greatest quarterback of all time, but he could actually be the best-looking athlete of all time.
Have you seen him with his shirt off? He has a dad bod.
Okay, Kelly, please. I'm sure Brad Pitt does not have abs anymore, okay? And I, as a male, I am prepared to say that I drool at both Brad and Tom. I mean, Brad more, but if I could come back as anybody in the whole world, I would like to come back as Tom Brady. He is the man.
You gonna bang a supermodel? You gonna, just be super average and then somehow be an elite quarterback?
Super average?
I meant physically looking wise. I still laugh.
Tom Brady is a stud, girl. Are you kidding me with that? I don't know how
the butt chin.
How do they shave? It's always been a mystery to me. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you get in there?
That's a great question because I don't know anything about shaving my face, but I've never thought about that.
Ask their wives because they have similar issues in different places, but we won't go there. I'm taking the Pats at -2.
All right. Okay, now let's talk about how bad the Oakland Raiders played. They played Denver. Denver got the push. I was kind of annoyed. I thought maybe they had a better opportunity there, but Case Keenum threw 3 interceptions. Other than that, I thought he looked very well. 329 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Beautiful pass to D. Thomas in the end zone, too. And Emmanuel Sanders had a hell of a game as well, and so did Royce Freeman. Listen, I'm high on the Broncos, and we spoke about this in another video we did. -5.5. I'm going to take Denver here, but I don't love the play. I think we are going to see a bit of a bounce back with Oakland. I mean, Carr literally threw that game away, but Oakland's defense wasn't as bad as we expected them to be. I think the play in this game is under 45.5.
All right. Sunday night game. This is always a fun one. Eli gets to go to Jerry's World to play the Dallas Cowboys. 3 points. I feel like this game is just that. It's going to be decided by 3 points one way or another. It's going to be a really close game.
Kelly.
Yes.
When has a New York Giant-Dallas game not been decided by 3 points?
Also true. And Eli does play traditionally well there. For whatever reason, he kind of owns Jerry's World, but the Giants haven't won too many there. I lost my stats. I had my notes, and I clicked it down. But that being said, I don't know if I can back. Are we going to get good Eli or are we going to get bad Eli? If we get good Eli...
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We're going to get bad Dallas. No
Touché.
matter what. I mean, here, let's go back 10 years, 15 years. Let's talk about Dallas with Aikman and Irving, and Emmitt Smith, and the monster Super Bowl runs that they had year after year. And at that time, the New York Giants had, Jeff Hostetler or something as a quarterback. Let's go back to Dallas even a couple of years ago. Go back to Dallas with the mighty Tony Romo. Handsome guy, too, now that we're on a little bit of a motif. The Giants, every time Dallas is at their best and the Giants stink, they still come in and keep the game within 3. So now we have a really bad Cowboy team and a bad but likely better New York Giants team. I mean, the Giants had Barkley had a great game last week. Junior had a good game last week. Sterling Shepard had a good game last week. I think the Giants win this game outright, Kelly. I'm all over the Giants. And Kelly, under the total of 42.5 points. Who the hell is going to score in this game? I mean, it's not like a bunch of women in a room with Tom Brady. No one is scoring in this game.
You're so funny with your man crush on Tom Brady. Okay, Prez, NFL 75. You guys get Prez's whole month of this nonsense. No, I love him. He's great. No, you don't get his opinion on Tom Brady. You just get his opinion on football for $75. Or if you just want to try out a Sunday package, Prez NFL 5, you get a Sunday package. We're going to move on to the last but not least, the Monday night game. I have a pretty good opinion on this one. Seattle +3 at the Chicago Bears. Total 43.5. Prez, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm looking at the Seahawks here. I know you and I both were not that high on the Seahawks. I also was not that high on the Bears. I don't know if the Bears are ready to be favorites. A lot of things that we talk about on our other WagerTalk videos is, cool, you get the win. Now you have to learn how to cover. And now we're asking them to be favorites as they were just over a touchdown dog at Green Bay. I think I got to go with the Seahawks here.
Listen, I agree. I mean, I think we saw the real Chicago Bears in the second half. I mean, granted, they were playing Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. But, I think Chicago's going to have a tough time scoring. Here's the problem with Seattle in this game. I think Seattle's going to have a tough time scoring. So if I think two teams are going to have a tough time scoring, and the over is over 40, and this game is 43.5, I think the bet's on under here. I mean, would I take Seattle over Chicago at +3 in the hook? Absolutely. But if I'm going to lay my money, I'm going to lay it on the under more so than the side.
All right. I'm going to let you finish out with just, a little bit more. How mad are your kids going to be if I crank it? Did you get a text right now?
Nobody hears me when the music's on. Kelly, I just want to say to all my listeners, make sure to keep commenting on Facebook. Rib me for having a Tom Brady man crush. Rib me for wanting to spoon with Brad Pitt. That's fine. Rib me for wanting a non-sexual threesome with Tony Romo and Tom Brady. Okay.
A non-sexual threesome.
That's right. Like, we just cut it.
Oh, just like pet each other?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd ask
Ask how he shaves his butt chin.
But in all seriousness, Kelly, we're going to do this every week. And listen, we have to be entertaining. So no matter what, I'm not going to sit here and talk about this team is ATS, this team hasn't won on a night game after a loss against a division rival. I'm going to give you what I think is the right side and the right total to most games. I'm not going to give you all my real reasons why, because I have systems and stats and all of this stuff that I study, but I am going to give you what I think is the right side and the right total to every game, and I'm going to do it in an entertaining way with this incredibly punchable face.
Good stuff, Prez. All right, you guys heard it here first. We're doing it every single week. The presidential address. We go through all the NFL games. Make sure you guys go check out Prez's page on WagerTalk.com.